What is dyslexia?
To put it simply, dyslexia is the characteristic of the brain working process. It happens when the right and the left hemispheres cannot agree and there is a misunderstanding. In general, that's dyslexia. It usually manifests itself in the inability to read fluently and the inability to write correctly.
There is such a thing as dysgraphia, when a person reads a lot of books but cannot write correctly, and dyscalculia, when a person has issues with numbers.
Children and adults usually hear standard phrases like read more, learn the rules of Russian or any other language, but it's not because the person is lazy and therefore doesn't succeed. They are just incapable of this.
When did you notice dyslexia, and which type do you have?
I realized that something was wrong with me when I was in elementary school. But the concept of dyslexia, I only learned when I was about 25. For example, I struggle with reading, I read very slowly, and I also have some signs of dysgraphia. I can tell you how I see the text in general. I see a page full of symbols, but at the same time, it is very difficult for me to focus on one of them. It's usually necessary to close the text with some kind of a ruler, as in childhood. My eyes run off the line faster than necessary, and therefore, it turns out that I read the end of a word, then its beginning, and then the middle part of it, and a completely different word is obtained. Plus, the letters themselves are mirrored. Or sometimes it happens that I need some time to contemplate the letters of a font in order to understand what I actually see.
I don't struggle with reading, but I do with understanding what I've read. I can read one page several times, but with no effect.
I was 12 when my mother decided to test me. The child appears to be clever, but when she writes a word, and when you check it, some letters or even half of the word is missing. For example, if I write rabbit, I can end up with just rab instead, and that's it.
The first steps were the most difficult. When we read something in the classroom, I remember when we had to read something aloud, I waited for my turn, I tried to prepare, reread my parts several times, and when it was my turn, I was reading, and then an unnecessary word appeared from nowhere. I had just jumped to another line. Did you have any difficulties at school?
Teachers told me from time to time, "Vlada, how would you not write this word correctly?" I had a teacher in elementary school. She constantly caught me just after my lessons and she was like, "Come on, sit down, write a dictation, here's a copybook for you." And I was like, ouch, okay, I used to have pretty bad marks. I studied well, but imagine a maths test. We need more time to read and to understand the task. We need to read it several times, we read slowly, so we lose a lot of time that could be spent on the task itself. So you have anxiety attacks because you never make it in time.
I read a text and they asked me to retell it, and I feel like I recall the words that I said out loud before. There were such books, summaries of literature in the school curriculum, the green ones and the red ones. And I used to go to a bookstore and I tried to read the retold works in order to register them. I can't say that I was a good student, nor was I too bad. Still, it was hard for me to learn poems by heart. I look at the text and the letters just jump to each other and information is lost. When I wrote something, I changed the words' positions and made mistakes in the words. I may not even notice when I change a letter in a word to a completely different one.
If it was the reading class or literature class, it means reading by rules, sentence by sentence. I used to read a sentence and start to count the number of classmates to know which sentence will be mine. I tried to memorize the sentence. And the most important thing, I prayed that someone didn't read too much because of direct speech. But I stammered anyway. In such cases, teachers gave me good marks as a gift. My teacher had to explain to the commission that I wasn't one of the D students, that everything was fine with me.
What difficulties do you face every day?
For example, autocorrection helps me a lot. Before such technical devices appeared, my friends were always shocked because, on the one hand, people know me as a rather educated person, not dumb at all, well-read, and I really like reading. On the other hand, they can receive messages from me with a wild number of completely stupid mistakes. As for business correspondence, business emails, it has always been a big struggle for me, for sure. I have two friends who are brilliant students with the highest marks in Russian language. The mother of one of them is a teacher of the Russian language, and when I text them, they always tell me, "Vlada, please do something about it." Are you kidding? That's just unbearable. My eyes are bleeding. Stop texting. Let's switch to voice messages, please.
My clients often help me with documents. When I need to connect to a mobile operator or to fill the form in for a new plastic card, I have to believe them and sign the papers without reading.
I have a baby, she's a year and a half, and when she was born, I was worried that I won't be able to read fairy tales to her because she would not be able to listen to them. But we're good for now. We read only short quatrains written in huge letters, so I get it. Although sometimes I slow down anyway and don't understand what the word is. It's such a tension. Why do dyslexics often get a headache while reading? Because it's an enormous effort for the brain, for the eyes, for the whole body to read just a small piece of text. I'm 33 years old now, and I'm able to read in Russian good enough. But as for the Belarusian, it's another story.
Which case was especially remarkable?
Sometimes I confuse the names of bus stops and can't read the name of a street. And so people have to catch me. My parents are like, "Vlada, where are you?" I read the wrong name and they're like, "Where the hell is it?" And so I have to spell the name so that they can find me and take me home.
I had extramural courses at university, and I cheated at all my exams. At one exam, I had a cheat sheet and wrote all the answers to the first question in my own words. And I copied the answer to the second one from the cheat sheet because I didn't understand the question. And the professors said, "We wish to talk to some of you, for your knowledge is in question." I had an hour to learn this question by heart. I tried to read it from various cheat sheets, but I failed to get anything at all. I couldn't understand the text to retell it in 1 hour. I remember we had exercises in class when we were told to write sentences on the board. For example, on one side of the board, someone wrote one part of the sentence, and I wrote the second one. And when the two boards were knocked into one, I saw my part, and at first glance it looked okay, but then you see that the letters were different, and the punctuation marks were all off, and the second person just did everything cool, and you end up standing there thinking, come on, why? One day I came to work where I needed to figure out how to reprogram a simple thing which, however, comes in a wide and varied forms. Each of them has different functions, so in order to understand how it worked, I needed to download the instruction. And I was horrified because there were 4 pages of it. I was so confused. I sat in the car for about half an hour trying to read it. It was very difficult for me. And it wasn't until I flipped through it that I saw a schematic image that was a lot easier to comprehend. And I was finally able to get it. How did others react to your feature?
I had very good friends. They knew about my peculiarity, but they didn't care. Teachers were not nagging, they never said something like, "Why don't you learn, Vlada, you're a clever girl." They were always indulgent. Even when I entered the college, everyone treated me nicely. Nobody offended me.
I don't remember any bullying. Perhaps criticism was delivered to my parents, and I didn't know because they tried to help me to do something. But I didn't know what dyslexia was. I didn't know that I had it, and perhaps I used to take it easy.
My classmates treated me well. But someone could giggle because I would read a word in a really funny and ridiculous way. Or someone could say, "Oh my gosh, how much of this is enough?" Yet again, she fails to make a sentence. And I sat there shaking. My palms were sweating. And I wanted to disappear so that this shame was over. But this was a shame that I felt daily, at least several times a day.
How do new technologies help cope with difficulties? I listen to audiobooks in the studio, in the car, and I can discuss it with someone. Like, have you read it? Yeah, I have.
There are special fonts to facilitate your reading. You can choose from different backgrounds, the one which is more convenient for you to read on. Of course, I have autocorrection, but it rather complicates my life more than helps. I tried to switch it off several times, but somehow it switches on again and again. I write a word, autocorrection is trying to correct it, but I know that it's already spelled correctly. But it corrects it anyway and writes its own word, and you send the message. The sentence loses its meaning completely, and you look at it and think, yeah, great. Voice messages is a big thank you if you're not particularly fond of texting and especially of autocorrection.
I think it's all in my head, and I often try to stop myself and give myself some more time. When I write a text, I take the time to reread it or reread the message before sending it to someone so that dyslexia isn't obvious to the other.
For dyslexics, for example, it is recommended to keep little balls or some walnuts in a pocket, to use them as soon as you feel that your head is filled with cotton when you're talking to someone. When you understand that you just see moving lips, but you don't understand what they are telling you, you touch these nuts in your pocket and you're like, boom, I'm ready to listen to you again.
Can dyslexia be cured?
It can't be cured. However, let's say with the help of some correction, which will be provided in time, the dyslexia can be brought to the level when the child will be able to socialize quite comfortably and study among other children quite well. It doesn't progress, for sure. It's just what you were born with. In the development of a child at a young age, there are certain points by which it can be assumed that the child will have or already has dyslexia. For example, the child keeps crawling but can walk. He didn't have this important moment of communication between the hemispheres. Crawling is very important in order to develop the relationship between the left and right hemispheres. I have absolutely no idea what kind of medications could be taken by someone who is totally normal, but simply is not able to write and read correctly. It is necessary to improve attention. The main thing I would like to add is that the parents who see that their child has dyslexia should not panic. The world has not collapsed. Your child is okay. Everything is cool with their intelligence, and this is the main thing. The rest depends on their ability to work hard. It is believed that the neuropsychologists should deal with such children, but there are no neuropsychologists in Belarus. There are defectologists. Whatever specialists you find, the correction will not happen by itself. You need to do exercises with the child.
I can't say that it ruins my life. Maybe this is just an adventure that creates something new. And people are like, what is it? Why do you write like that? And it can be seen as something unusual, and maybe somebody who's watching this now realizes that they're cool and they can achieve everything. And if they have such a feature, it's awesome. They don't need to leave it unsaid. We can share this and develop this feature.